All right, we are recording. We have Miss Ticey Siddle from MTS. Ms. Siddle, if you could introduce yourself to our scholars and let us know what you do, that would be super great. And I will go ahead and advance the slides for you as you go through your presentation. Right now, I'm on slide 1.
Okay, great. So my name is Ticey Siddle, and I'm with the Metropolitan Transit System. That's the bus and trolley in San Diego. And a lot of times people just think of bus drivers and trolley operators when they think of transportation, but we have lots of job opportunities in various departments. You know, it's just like any other organization: finance, marketing, human resources, etc. And one of our departments, or two of our departments, are LRV, light rail vehicle, and MOW, maintenance of way. And in these two departments, we have apprenticeship programs. And our apprenticeship programs is a way for folks to get a 2-year education in either the light rail vehicle, which is the maintenance and preventative maintenance of the trolley car, or MOW, which is the maintenance and preventative maintenance of everything else. So it's the right of way, which includes the signals, the overhead wire, everything else that powers the train. We like candidates that have some kind of mechanical dexterity. Maybe you're tinkering with, working on your own car, or you like to take things apart and put them back together. All of those things would help you be a candidate for our apprenticeship program. And now I'm going to go to slide 3. It's a 4-year program, which includes on-the-job training and formal classroom training. So the training is done, some of which at City College, which is our local community college, which is down the street from our entity. MTS covers the cost of the books and the tuition. However, we don't pay you for the time that you spend sitting in class. So that's your time that you're using there. Now we're going to slide 4. You're working full-time, 40 hours per week, while attending classes. It's usually one class at a time. You do have to keep your grades up in order to keep the position. So you have to maintain a C or better in each class in order to remain in the program. And the shifts are pretty tough. You could be put on a day shift, a swing shift, or a graveyard shift. Most of the maintenance work is done at night. So it's very likely that if you were in the program, you would be working a night shift. You do have to have good attendance both in school and work in order to stay in the program. And so now we're going to kind of break it down to learn about the two programs. And now we're on slide 5. Can you still hear me? Hello?
Yes, sorry, I was muted.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure that I was talking to myself.
No, you're doing good, and I'm keeping up with you on the slides.
Perfect. So now we're going to talk about how the two programs are split up, and we're on slide 6. The light rail vehicle is all of the maintenance and preventative maintenance, like I said, of the trolley car itself. That includes working on the doors, the stairs, the windows, the seats, all of the electrical computer components associated with that train. The only thing that we don't do in-house is the paint and body. We have a private company that works on the paint and body because it's a very difficult task to get the trolleys that very specific red color, and it's not something that we can leave to chance. So we don't have our apprentices do the painting. So now we're moving on to slide 7. In the position, you would do preventative maintenance, you would do troubleshooting, making repairs to our fleet of 175 cars. We also have street cars, which are those vintage cars that we're seeing in the previous shot that are green. and we get people where they need to go, about 1 million people a year. So it's a huge job, and it's taken very seriously. So slide 8 showcases the different models of cars, and these numbers here on each picture indicate which each car is. I'm thinking the one in the center is our newest car because it looks the newest. And then the PCC is the street car, which is a throwback from the 20s or 30s, and they have those running on weekends and holidays. Mostly tourists take those, and it's just through the gas lamp corridor. Slide 9. So the LRV department, the light rail vehicle department, is not just mechanics. You could eventually work your way up through the ranks, and our superintendent started as an apprentice. You could also potentially get to assistant superintendent. We have a project coordinator, a training supervisor, an assistant training supervisor. We have a maintenance analyst, 9 shop supervisors, and then we have the 89 apprentices. But the apprentice position is not where you could potentially stop. I mean, some people stay in that position as a career, but others advance through the ranks into management. Now we're on slide 10. This here kind of breaks down the types of classes you would potentially be taking. And it is a state accredited apprenticeship program. While you're an assistant lineman, there are 4,000 on-the-job training hours that you have to obtain. And then there are classes that you need to do at City College, which would include math, basic DC electronics, an intro to digital circuits. And then once you're advanced after 2 years to lineman, there are 4,000 of on-the-job training hours, some more classes that you take at City College, which would include HVAC and a sensor course. And then once you're an electromechanic, you get your EPA certification. Now we're on slide 11. It is a full-time position, 40 hours per week. We would pay for your tuition. Your tools and uniforms would be covered through the program, and you would receive a certificate. One of the things that's important to understand is a lot of times people assume that they would get like an electrician certificate that they could use to then later climb poles. But this certificate is specific to light rail. So you could work, say if you wanted to move anywhere in the country, you could move somewhere and work on a light rail vehicle somewhere once you had this certification and training. Slide 12. Some of the specialized skills that you would get would be mechanical, hydraulic, electrical, electronics, computers, industrial safety, heavy equipment, and emergency response through the 4-year apprenticeship program. It's not just a job. Now we're looking at slide 13, but it's a career. From apprentice, you can move to shop supervisor, training supervisor, assistant superintendent, and then finally the superintendent. And then pictured here is Andy Goddard Jr. He has been with the company right out of high school, basically, and he started as an apprentice, and now he is our superintendent of the department. Now we're on slide 14, and we're going to start talking about the maintenance of way, and that is everything else. So as I said before, the 2 apprenticeship programs are identical, but they're split in terms of specialization. You're either specializing on the trolley car itself or the maintenance of way, which is everything else, the overhead catenary wire, the railroad crossings, switches, gates, signals, and pumps. So now we're on slide 15. And we're going to kind of go deep into what the wayside department is. Now on slide 16, it's a 4-year program. Again, it's structured exactly the same, 2 segments. an apprenticeship program and then an apprentice lineman program, each 2 years in length with 4,000 hours of on-the-job training. In the maintenance of way, you're going to get training in signals, gates and switches, catenary, traction power, and low voltage. So the signals are the lights that signal to the trains to move forward or proceed with caution. The gates are those arms that come down. You'll see those in the city that prevent cars from crossing the track at certain times when the train is advancing. And then the catenary is that wire that powers the train above, from the poles. So you'll see that overhead catenary wire. And then the traction power is usually out of a box, which we'll show a little later. Slide 17. These here are the 5 classes that you would take at City College. You would take math and several electronic courses. You usually attend 1 class per semester. And even though it's 1 class, it can be pretty intense because you're working full time in addition to that. And so it can be quite challenging. You do have to get a C in each class in order to advance and of course, keep your employment. Now we're going to look at slide 18 and talk about the diverse equipment that we maintain. Slide 19.
Just so you know, Ms. Siddell, I am on track with you. I know I've been silent for a little while, but I didn't want you to feel like you were talking to yourself.
No, perfect. And so the signals, you would learn how to repair the signal system, the traction power, the overhead catenary system, and the station electrical system. Now we're on slide 20. They do routine preventative maintenance, and they repair or correct problems. Like a problem, an example of a problem might be repairing or replacing a burnt out light bulb in your house. So that would be something corrective. And that, there's lots of corrective actions that take place on the line, the trolley line. And then a routine preventative maintenance would be, when something breaks or like when you're changing your car's oil. So you're preparing for an advanced problem. So 21, this is an example of what the signal systems look like. We were talking about the lights. So on the maintenance of way are these signal lights, and they convey different commands to the trolley operator. So in this position, you might be repairing these lights. Slide 22, this is an example of a signal system, and it's like a power switch machine that you could potentially be learning how to correct. Slide 23, these are the grade crossings, the arms that come down. You could potentially be learning how to fix these. And these, prevent pedestrians from getting hit by a train. Slide 24, there are 40 interlockings, and they require testing every 2 years. So they would teach you how to work on these as well. And then slide 25, traction power. All of the traction power is done in these boxes, and they would teach you how to work on this as well. And slide 26, this is kind of an example of how the traction power substation works. Kind of as a little diagram on how the train gets powered through the traction power substation. And then slide 27, the station electrical and control systems. And this is kind of a little visual on how that works. And a lot of this is kind of high level, and we don't expect you to understand this. today. It just kind of gives you a little bit of background in terms of the differences between the two programs, because a lot of times people have a hard time visualizing what one does versus the other. And then slide 28, the overhead catenary wire is the wire that powers the train. And so they would teach you how to work on that. You would go up in a bucket truck to work on that. Both positions require that you're not afraid of heights, because you'll see that this person is quite high in the bucket truck. And those that also work on the trains have to, in certain instances, get on top of the train to work on it. So you can't be too afraid of heights. You're going up about a story, like it would be like being on top of a one-story house in terms of fixing these things. Slide 29, there's an ongoing training program. So as new equipment rolls out, they're going to be training you up on the new equipment, and on different safety procedures as time goes on. So there's just ongoing training. And then on slide 30, just kind of says the two programs. Slide 31, how the career progression works. You start out as a lineman, and that's a 2-year program. You obtain your 4,000 on-the-job training hours, and you pass your classes, and then you get advanced to a certified assistant lineman, and then you go 2 more years, get 4,000 more hours of OJT hours, and at the conclusion, you become a journeyman, and you get your lineman certificate. And then after that, you go up and become an electromechanic with MTS. And this is the wage progression right now. This is a contract position, and that means that you're coming into a union. So the pay could potentially go up dependent upon the union contract as time goes on. To start, while you're going to school, your pay would be $20.19 per hour while you're an apprentice. And then following 2 years, you go up to be a lineman, your pay goes up to $27.59. And then electromechanic, your pay would go up to $32.37. And that's not stagnant, meaning it's not going to just stay at that rate. With a union, there's constantly contract negotiations, and they're always working on getting the pay up. So it could be by the time you finish your 4-year program, the pay for electromechanic is going to increase significantly. And then slide 33, this might not be important to you as a student, but once you're in, making this a career for yourself, MTS has a whole host of benefits to include medical, vision, dental, retirement, paid leave. You get a free transit pass for yourself and your dependents. One of the main reasons that so many people like to work for MTS is because of our pension program, which again isn't going to be important to you as a student, but it's very rare to find a company that has a pension where you actually leave with a pension and you're not just investing to a 401k or the stock market, that you actually have a real pension that if you put in a certain amount of years, you can retire at a certain age. And we do have that here at MTS.
That's a big, big benefit. I mean, I know, like you said, I know you guys probably don't realize that now, but that's huge.
Yeah, so I started here as an intern when I was in my early 20s, and I was seeing people retiring at like 55. And, after, maybe putting in 25, 30 years. And so I ended up staying with the company because I was like, shoot, I'm doing a lot of research and there aren't pensions anymore, really. So a lot of people really come to work for us because of the pension, which as a young student, it doesn't seem like much, but it really does help you plan for the future. And then you have to weigh in the fact that you're not paying for your education. A lot of times people will leave college with a lot of student debt and loans where they're actually paying you to advance your career coming to work for us, which is awesome. Some of the qualifications were on slide 34. You have to be 18 years of age. You have to possess a high school diploma or GED equivalent. You have to maintain a valid California driver's license. And that is because you are operating different company vehicles. It's important that you're able to pass algebra in high school or junior college before you come to work for us, because algebra plays a big role in any kind of maintenance work that you might do later on. We never understand why we do algebra, but mechanics use algebra all the time. And then we would also give you a test here once you get through the interview process. And it just tests your basic skills and your mechanical dexterity. And it's a written test that you take in human resources. And then we're on slide 35. How you would apply is you just apply to the website. You would get a phone interview. You would go through an in-person interview. You would take some testing in human resources. And then you would go through a criminal and civil background check. And you would go through a drug screen and physical. We do drug screening because it is a safety sensitive position. So we hold our employees to a higher standard because we are regulated by the Department of Transportation, and we have to ensure that everybody's working in a safe manner. And part of that is pre-employment drug screenings and then routine drug screens while you're employed with us. I think that concludes the orientation on that, unless anyone has any questions.
Yeah. Actually, well, I'm gonna give the scholar a minute to be chatting their questions. So
That's a lot of information.
it is. Yeah, it is. But I find this fascinating. I mean, as my family uses the public transportation quite a bit, actually. My son's been taking it from school every day for a couple of years, and now he's taking the trolley as well. And it's really interesting to get to see sort of behind the scenes. Here's a question. Do you choose which apprenticeship prior to the schooling, or can you switch after a little bit of time? Does that make sense? Like, do you have to pick it at the outset?
You have to pick at the beginning because each program has unique classes that they take. And so, you know, if say you start and you're going through different kinds of electrical courses, the classes that you would take for the maintenance of way involve a higher voltage because you're working with higher voltage than you would if you're working on the trolley car, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all very, very technical. Ooh, I've got questions coming in like crazy now. How is this program different from just say going to college? Because it sounds to me like it's a lot of I don't really know anything about engineering, but it sounded like a lot of electrical engineering. Why choose this path over just going to college?
Well, I think it would be for someone that can't afford to pay for college or doesn't have resources to go to college. And then it would be for someone that likes to work with their hands. You know, you might go to college and then work in an office where not everybody is equipped for that. Some people can't sit still, they can't sit at a desk, they need to be moving around and hustling. And this would be for someone that is likes school, likes learning, but also likes working with their hands.
Yeah, it sounds like a like really good option for someone. This makes me think of my two siblings. We're all grown now and have our own paths, but this would have been something I could see my brother enjoying. He likes to work with his hands. He doesn't really like being in a classroom. Um, so yeah, I can
And
see that.
then,
Now you are in a classroom, but it's a
yeah,
very
you are. It's
relevant.
and what you're learning, you're applying on a daily basis too. So,
Right,
someone
right.
that kind of needs to use what they're learning daily would benefit from a program like this.
Yeah. So another question is, can you request shifts?
No, part of being within a union is you're starting at the bottom of the seniority rank. So if you think about 500 employees, when you're hired brand new and you're coming in at number one, the person that's been there for 10 years is going to get the better shifts. So the new
Mm.
person is going to get the worst shifts, which are probably going to be weekends and holidays, nights,
Right. Okay.
until
Wow.
you can advance through the ranks to get some of the better shifts as you grow in seniority and have a better rank. You bid and request better shifts.
Bidding. Yes, that's a very union thing.
Yeah.
Another question, what is the demographic of the workers? It seems one scholar is questioning that it seems like it might be a really male-dominated field.
It's mixed. Um, we don't obviously. I mean, I don't know why, but we don't have a lot of women that apply.
Hmm.
But when we do, I work to advance them through the process because we would like to have a more diverse workforce. Um, it's definitely open to everyone. Um, but it's hard to hire folks if they're not applying.
Right.
And then it's very diverse. I mean, in that, like, we might have candidates that have retired from the military and they're just looking for a new career, or we have candidates that were in another kind of position. Maybe they worked in customer service, but they tinkered with cars and motors in their spare time, and they want to make this a career now. They might be advanced forward. Or we have folks that are, just getting out of school that want to start their careers now. So we have very diversity in terms of where people are in their careers.
Great. What's the future plan for MTS? Like, in other words, is this a job that's going to be around for a long time, or are things like, what's the outlook?
Well, we're pretty much growing. We have a new line that's advancing to La Jolla. So right now we've been hiring lots of apprentices to gear up for all of the trains and work that's coming in the future. And as we move along, I would expect that we're going to grow more
Mhm.
versus shrink um, as the city grows and becomes more transit dominated. I think as more people start to care about the environment, we're going to, just see more and more people using public transportation for those reasons.
Yeah, I think the adding more locations and sort of the speediness of a trolley or a train, I think is key because if it goes where you want to go, I mean, I know I would take it more.
Yeah.
Um, can you take these skills outside of MTS?
You could take them to another light rail system, like different cities that have a light rail system, meaning the trolley car is considered a light rail vehicle. So you could
Like,
go anywhere there was a
yeah.
light rail vehicle.
So like BART in the Bay Area, right? Bay Area Rapid Transit, or in
Yeah,
Sacramento, they call it the light rail. Okay.
exactly.
Is the job dangerous?
Yeah, anytime you're dealing with electricity, there's going to be some level of danger. And they would teach you through the training, safety protocols, and they wouldn't advance anybody to work on anything if they weren't ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it sounded.
probably in terms of the danger, the MOW or maintenance of way is probably a little more dangerous than working on the trolley car itself because the volts are higher.
Right. It did sound, as you were going through it, it did sound a little dangerous, but it also sounds fascinating. I mean, these are real skills. These are real skills. And like you said, you can take them to other light rail systems. A couple more questions. We have about 4 or 5 more minutes. How do you balance school with 40 hours of work? Okay, I chuckle because I don't know about you, Mr. Lambros, and I don't know which scholar asked this question, but like I'm in school and I've been in school for years while I've been working and being a single mom. There's no balance, but that's okay. I would love to hear your response to that, Ms. Siddell. How do you balance
Well,
school with 40 hours of work?
yeah, it is really tough. I mean, they try and give you one class at a time, although it's a robust class, and sometimes the class has a lab where
Oh,
you're
wow.
going to the class and then you also have to go to a lab. The trainers figure out the scheduling for the candidate or the student, and they'll have you go to class before your shift or after your shift. So it's exhausting.
Wow.
Um, but, people get through it. But it can just be exhausting staying up, and trying to
Yeah.
do class and then work or vice versa.
So you have to be a
And
good time manager, right? Like know
right.
yourself.
And the students study together, if there usually just are students in the class together, so they all kind of help each other out to get through it. They
Hmm.
might have study groups, on their breaks. But I mean, it's intense. It's not, like going to college is also very intense. So it would be like going to college and working.
Right, right. And then 2 more questions here. Well, sort of 2 more. How many applicants do you get every year, and like how many do you accept?
I don't have really good numbers on that. I get hundreds of applicants anytime I open up the position, but I tend to be kind of shuffling through those applicants constantly,
Hmm.
and constantly doing phone screens, constantly bringing people in. But that's also because we've been hiring for this mid-coast expansion.
Right.
But then too, not everybody is successful. And a lot of times it's not that candidates are terminated, but they, get into the program and they realize that it might be more than they can handle.
So like what are you looking for, and what would be a successful candidate?
I try and kind of just really open the net,
Mhm.
and do a phone interview with a candidate just to kind of talk with them and see, you know, what they're willing to commit and invest. But I also look for folks that like to tinker with things, that work on their own cars, that work on their own computers, that like to take things apart and put them back together. Because it's good to have a nice mix of people. You want to have people that maybe are coming from military background, but then you also want to have people that are just kind of new to the workforce so that you have
Mhm.
different um, trains of thought,
Sure, sure. Diversity of thought, diversity of, you know.
talent. Yeah,
Sure.
just
Mhm.
so that you're bringing in a good mix of people.
Nice. Okay, last question, and I know there's a slide for this. Someone asked about the vacation time, like getting time off and what a typical schedule was, and I couldn't find the slide number for that. Oh, is it 33 benefits?
Yeah. I don't think on the benefits slide we say how much time you get off, but that also advances as you get more time in your
Right.
position.
But it does have paid leave. You say holidays, floating holidays, vacation, and sick leave. So,
Yeah, sick
yeah.
leave is now more legally, everyone has to get that. And then Personal time off, the PTO, that is also something that you would get. And then because we are public, we get all of the major holidays. Or if you say work a holiday, you would get paid for working that holiday.
Mhm,
You would
mhm.
get paid double for working that holiday.
Oh, wow. Nice. Not just time and a half, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. This was really, really informative. I learned a lot today. I had no idea this even was a thing. I mean, it makes sense. It's just not something that I think about. And so I'm grateful to you for sharing your time and your expertise with us. And scholars, you now have 1 minute to the end of this mod. So I think if your LFs are comfortable with this, I'm just going to go ahead and dismiss you. But I just would like to thank Miss Siddell again for sharing this. Oh, we got a thank you in the chat. Yeah, we really appreciate this, and I did record this presentation, everybody. So hopefully Miss Woods will make it available if we have any scholars who are absent or who would just like to hear this presentation in addition to whichever one they're in this morning. So thank you again, and we really appreciate you.
Okay, have a great weekend.
Thank you. You as well. All right, scholars, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You are dismissed from E-Block.